All right, and welcome to another edition of L.I.F.T Tutoring. Today we will be talking about an issue, subject matter that I actually just came across recently because I wasn't thinking about it before. Again, we are simulcasting. Again, not really simulcasting, but we are simulcasting on Spreaker and on YouTube. I will be taking the video that I've used to record myself, and also have it on YouTube, so you can listen to it either on Spreaker.com/user/L.I.F.T Tutoring, or you can listen to it via YouTube in either the podcast format or the video format. So let's dive right into it today. So I've noticed throughout my teaching career that parents usually they want their children to do the best that they can. And this often results in trying to find extra help for the student outside of school, because either the student is not understanding how the teacher is teaching, what strategies are being used. Maybe they just don't have the foundational knowledge. They don't have the background knowledge to be able to keep up with the class, or what have you. So most parents will then look at some sort of tutoring service to make sure that their child stays on grade level and can get on grade level, so that they can do what they need to do to pass the class and to go to the next grade with enough of a foundation where they won't be struggling. But I've been thinking about that concept. I've been mulling over that concept the past few days. I've had a couple parents that were interested in my services that they started off the conversation like this: my child's doing great at insert subject here, let's say writing. My child's doing great at writing, but their weakness is in math. Can you help them with math? Okay. Or another scenario, which is, my child's behind in a few things, so they just kind of need to be brought back to the middle of the pack. They need to come back to where they need to be so they can be on grade level. Okay. Recently, I had a parent, since first quarter's about to be over in most school districts, I've had a parent who, in the beginning of the semester, in the beginning of the quarter, thought that their child was okay, they were not okay in both reading and math. When I did a follow-up with them to ask them about possible tutoring times, the parent told me, well, their reading is on grade level, and their only weakness is in math, which implies to me that the child needs help with math. So I started thinking, in other areas of life, we don't necessarily do this. We do to an extent. We want to make sure that the person that needs more help in their job gets more help so they can do their job better. We want to make sure that there's training when people don't know what they don't know. But I was thinking about it, and I was mulling over the actual definition of tutoring. And most parents believe that if you need tutoring, then you are deficient in a certain area, rather than tutoring to elevate what you already have. And just looking at Google, typing in the word tutoring is, let's go in the dictionary, just read it. It is to act as a tutor, to teach or instruct, to have the guardianship of, to instruct, to train, school or discipline, to admonish or reprove, to act as a tutor or private instructor, to study privately with a tutor, a person employed to instruct another in some branch or branches of learning, especially a private instructor, a teacher, academic rank lower than instructor in some American universities. So a tutor has to do with the privatization, the one-on-one of helping a child out. But when it comes to the understanding and the image of why a child would need tutoring, it's usually because they're deficient in an area. My whole challenge to you today is to think of tutoring not just as your child needing help because they're deficient in certain areas. My challenge to you would be to think of it like athletes. Okay? And I'll use my dad as an example. Not once, after he made the Pro Bowl or after he was an All-Pro, did he go up to his coach and say, I don't need any more work with my technique because I'm a pro and I know what I'm doing. So you can go ahead and coach up all the people who are not like me and who aren't, advanced and great like me. He would never say that. But for some reason, in our society, we've come to think of tutoring and one-on-one and places that offer these after-school programs as programs to help our children get to the middle of the pack because they're deficient in the area. I would argue that that isn't the sole purpose of what a tutoring center can be for. If your child is already showing growth in an area, or they are showing the ability to excel in an area of interest, then they need to go further in that interest. Whether they are 2 months ahead, 3 months ahead, 4 months ahead, possibly even a whole year ahead, it still benefits a child to be able to go further in their own interests. Case in point, and I didn't really even start thinking about this subject until this came up. So recently I had a parent come up to me and they told me, well, I know all the wonderful things that you've done with my child in the past when you taught them in the school setting, and I would like you to tutor them. And I'm thinking, okay, what kinds of things would you like me to do? They said, well, they're already ahead in all of these areas, and I'd like them to go further. And that's when my mind started to kind of churn a bit to where, 90% of the people that have asked me to tutor before is always because, 95, maybe 100, is because their children were behind in a certain area. Now I'm being asked to tutor a child to continue to make sure that they're ahead. And that shouldn't be lost on parents. The ability for your children to go further in their area of interest. I would argue too that this might be more beneficial in the long run for areas of interest that they may not be that interested in. So let's say that they're not that they're really awesome at writing, but they don't like reading so much. Well, if you have the right kind of tutor that can push them and help them understand that writing and reading go hand in hand, and that their interest in writing can help their reading, well, then now you've suddenly helped their reading out too. Rather than saying, okay, you're gonna go do some extra work with a subject that you don't particularly like, but I need you to try your best so you can bring that up. Sometimes when you increase your strength, it will pull up whatever it is you're deficient in. It's not always true, because it doesn't happen necessarily across something like reading, which is very, it's a little bit more fluid, and you have to use lots of different strategies to be able to read. There's a lot more that goes into it rather than something as concrete as math. But the point is, if you give a student the ability to believe in themselves with something they're already interested in, that can open the door to help out what they're also deficient in. So I just had that idea, and I wanted to talk about it with you guys today, and just remind you that learning, it's a lifelong process that always continues, and it's not just something that's a one-off, such as you're going to do this, you're going to get the grade, and then we're not going to worry about it. You don't want to establish that as the norm for your child. You want to make sure that they are not necessarily just studying for a test or studying to get the grade or studying to be on grade level, but that they're studying and they're learning because they enjoy studying and learning, which will push them further in life and will make sure that they can be the best in the area that they, in the career that they end up taking up in the future. So that's what I mainly wanted to speak on today, and I hope you all continue to chase your joy and continue to develop a love for lifelong learning.